Hello and welcome to PowerBench. Today I'm going to be doing a review of this Apple official lightning cable. It came in a new phone box, so it's been, although it's not in retail packaging, it's brand new and unused. I'm going to be doing a comparison with an older Apple lightning cable. I've actually got two here. These are reasonably well used. I've referenced them in one of the other lightning cable videos I've done, but it'll be interesting to see how it compares, because cables do degrade over time as they bend. The copper work hardens, strands break. Generally, the older a cable is and the more heavily used it is, the less good it will be as a conductor, and it will eventually get worse and worse and worse until it stops working. Now, one of the things people don't like about Apple cables, and they're notorious for it, if you can see this. Let's see if I can adjust the focus. Come on. Is the sort of pinching on the strain relief. So Apple strain relief is actually very good, but the cables tend to bunch up and then split just beyond the strain relief, which ultimately the problem with strain relief is that you can't have it all the way down. So they do tend to break here. This one's not too bad. The other one I've got is similar, so there's a bit of bunching, but it's not too bad. But in terms of performance, focus back. In terms of performance, last time I checked, this one drops about 10 or 11%. This one drops a little bit more at 2.1 amps, and I've got no idea what this one will do. So let's find out. So if I just angle, so using a normal testing method for these, I've got the bench power supply hooked up, 5.14 volts, which is normally the right answer for getting with voltage loss through the cables at 2.1 amps. Let's turn the dial up slightly. So 2.1 amps. Give it a second to settle. 2.1 amps, 5 volts. So basically this negates the voltage drop due to these cables and this socket, and gives us a figure reasonably close to 5 volts under load at this socket. So when we plug it into the lightning port back here, we get a reasonably good approximation of the loss in the cable from 5 volts. Because we can take it from 5 volts exactly, that makes the maths nice and easy. So let's take this older lightning cable and see how it does. So again, this cable, quite well used. I've had it several years probably. There we go. So 4.45 volts, and slightly high. Turn that. So adjust that back down. Yeah, 4.45, sort of on the worst side. So 0.55 volts lost, or 11%, which isn't great for a 3-foot cable, but it is an old one. It's been around quite a lot. It's heavily used. So it's not brilliant, but it's not unsurprising. The other cable, let's try this one. Again, this one is an older cable, so again it's got the same bunching around the connector. This one's even worse from what I recall. There we go. 4.32 volts, so losing 0.7 of a volt there, which is what, 14%. So it's not brilliant, but again, old cables, they do deteriorate over time. They've been heavily used, so not a massive surprise. So, moving on to the official Apple one. It's looking very bright. Let's tone that down a little bit. So, as with all Apple cables, Apple products in general, the packaging is reasonably nice. A little bit of a thing in the USB socket. It's quite tightly coiled, which I'm not a huge fan of. The bend radius on that's not brilliant, but it will. I guess it's not moving around much, at least. Obviously, it's the standard Apple white cable. The strain relief is, there's some. It's normal for the Apple cables. It feels like a standard Apple cable. USB mark on one side. Not a lot to say, really. It's an Apple cable. Any of you with Apple devices will know what these are. So, let's try and get this a bit straighter. Plug it in. And then, same deal. Into the lightning port. And at 2.1 amps. And 4.57 volts. So, that's not quite as good as I was hoping, to be honest. It's a bit less than 10%, which isn't awful. But you kind of expect, just for the sake of completeness, what is it, 0.45 volts. Divide by 5 is going to be 9%, isn't it? Divide by 5, I'm failing to operate my calculator. 0.45 divided by 5 times by 100. Yeah, 9%. So it's not terrible. I mean, they're quite a metre long, these cables, I think. So it's not brilliant, it's not spectacular, neither is it awful. So the upshot really is that Apple cables, even when they're brand new, are kind of average. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with them, but you could do better. So if you've got a high charge device, it is worth considering looking at an aftermarket cable that's of a better quality, less power loss, if you want your device to charge as quickly as possible, especially if it's something high drain like an iPad, where they will draw 2 amps. That's not ideal. So yeah, it's okay. It could be worse, could be better. Not the best cables, but also a long way from being the worst, so they're basically fine. But if you're looking to buy aftermarket cables, they're actually a very expensive way of getting a relatively mediocre lightning cable, so bear that in mind. The RAV Power ones are good, the Anchor Power Line ones are good. There are plenty of third-party ones that will outperform these for power delivery, so that's worth bearing in mind. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please consider subscribing. If you don't like the videos, I've got a website at powerbend.ch where you can read a short summary of each review. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you soon.